Governments don't just waste money, sometimes they use failure as a weapon. In 1976, Britain and France spent over $16 billion to build the Concorde, a jet they knew would never make money. Then they sold each billion-dollar plane for just £1. Here's the truth they buried in secret reports. This wasn't a mistake. It was a blueprint for manipulation, a psychological playbook still draining your wealth today. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how it works and how to protect yourself from the same trap. Welcome to the Wealth Project, where ambition meets opportunity and your journey to wealth and luxury living truly begins. Here, we deconstruct the playbooks of the world's most successful so you can transform your future. If you're ready to elevate your life, subscribe, follow, and ring the bell so you never miss a masterclass. Welcome to the exclusive club, where you don't just watch, you learn to win. Your next lesson starts now. This isn't really a story about planes. It's about money, power, and how governments sell failure as success. The Concorde wasn't a flop. It was proof of a system designed to keep you funding bad decisions. Every bailout, every too-big-to-fail project since then follows this same blueprint. And once you see it, you'll never look at government spending the same way again. But before we dive into this billion-dollar disaster, you need to understand the psychology that created it. Because once you see how two entire nations fell into this trap, you'll know exactly how to avoid it in your own financial decisions. The dream that became a trap. In 1962, Britain and France were desperate. The Americans had Boeing dominating the skies. The Soviets were building their own supersonic transport. For two proud nations that had pioneered aviation, being left behind was unthinkable. So they signed a treaty to build the impossible together. But here's what makes this story tragic. The 1962 Anglo-French agreement contained a clause that would doom both nations. There was no cancellation option. If either country tried to pull out, they would owe massive penalties to the other. They had legally trapped themselves before they even knew what it would cost. This is the sunk cost fallacy on a national scale. Once they started spending, every dollar invested became a reason to spend another dollar. The original budget was £70 million. By 1976, it had ballooned to £1.3 billion. That's over $16 billion today. But they couldn't stop. Their national pride wouldn't let them. Now you understand the psychological trap that created the Concorde. But even as costs spiraled out of control, the engineers were creating something that would face an even bigger problem. A problem that would destroy its business model before it ever flew commercially. The fatal flaw. The Concorde was an engineering masterpiece. It could fly at twice the speed of sound, cutting flight time from London to New York from 8 hours to 3.5. But it had one devastating flaw: the sonic boom. When the Concorde broke the sound barrier, it created a thunderous crack that could shatter windows and terrify people on the ground. Environmental groups mobilized, citizens complained, and in 1973, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration delivered the death blow. They banned all commercial supersonic flights over American land. This single decision destroyed 70% of the Concorde's potential market. It could only fly at supersonic speeds over the ocean. The world's airlines, who had placed over 100 preliminary orders, began canceling en masse. Pan Am, TWA, Lufthansa, every major carrier except state-owned British Airways and Air France walked away. But the British and French governments couldn't walk away. They were trapped by their own treaty, pride, and sunk costs. So the Concorde's fatal flaw killed its commercial viability. But just as the project was hemorrhaging money and losing customers, the world economy delivered another devastating blow that should have ended the program immediately. The perfect storm. In October 1973, the Arab oil embargo triggered a global energy crisis. Oil prices quadrupled overnight. For the Concorde, it was catastrophic. The Concorde's 4 engines burned over 6,000 gallons of fuel per hour. A normal Boeing 747 used about 3,000 gallons per hour. The Concorde used twice as much fuel to carry half as many passengers. When fuel prices quadrupled, the Concorde's operating costs went from challenging to impossible. A round-trip ticket would need to cost $20,000 today just to break even. Any rational business would have canceled the project. The market had spoken. Airlines were canceling orders. The oil crisis had made supersonic travel financially impossible. But this wasn't a business decision anymore. It was a matter of national honor. So they did something extraordinary. They decided to give the planes away. This is where the story becomes almost unbelievable. What the governments did next reveals the true nature of the Concorde project and teaches every investor a crucial lesson about the psychology of sunk costs. The billion-dollar gift. In 1984, the British government sold their entire Concorde program to British Airways for £16.5 million. The planes themselves? British Airways got them for £1 each. Let me put this in perspective. The true cost of developing each Concorde was over £800 million in today's money. The sale price was £1. That's a government subsidy of 99.999%. This wasn't a sale. It was the most expensive gift in aviation history. The French government made a similar deal with Air France. Both airlines suddenly owned the world's most advanced aircraft for essentially nothing. And for a brief moment, it looked like the gamble might pay off. The Concorde became the ultimate status symbol. Even with planes that cost them almost nothing, the airlines still struggled to make the Concorde profitable. And that reveals something profound about the difference between engineering excellence and business success. The beautiful, money-burning ghost. From 1976 to 2000, the Concorde lived in a strange twilight zone between success and failure. Celebrities, CEOs, and royalty paid $15,000 for a round-trip ticket. The experience was incredible. Champagne at twice the speed of sound, watching Earth's curvature through tiny windows. British Airways claimed the Concorde was operationally profitable, but this was clever accounting. They only counted direct costs: fuel, crew, landing fees. They never included the massive development costs that taxpayers had absorbed. It was like claiming a gifted Ferrari is profitable because you can afford the gas. For 24 years, the Concorde flew as a beautiful, money-burning ghost, a technological marvel that existed outside normal business rules. But even ghosts can't fly forever. The Concorde's existence as a subsidized status symbol might have continued indefinitely. But on July 25, 2000, something happened that would shatter the public's perception and give airlines the cover they needed to ground their expensive ghost. The fall. Air France Flight 4590 was supposed to be routine, but as the Concorde accelerated down the runway, it ran over a metal strip that had fallen from another aircraft. The strip punctured a tire, rubber flew up and ruptured a fuel tank, causing a fire that sent the aircraft crashing into a hotel, killing all 109 people on board. The crash was a tragic fluke, but its psychological impact was devastating. The Concorde had always seemed invincible. The fiery crash, broadcast worldwide, instantly transformed the beautiful symbol into an image of destruction. September 11th delivered the final blow. Business travel collapsed. In 2003, both airlines announced the Concorde's retirement. The supersonic dream was over. The lesson that changes everything. So here's the lesson. The most dangerous losses don't come from stupidity. They come from pride. Brilliant people trapped by their own success keep spending because admitting failure feels worse than losing billions. That's what destroyed the Concorde. And it's what destroys businesses, investments, and personal finances every single day. And here's where I want to hear from you. When was the last time you caught yourself defending a decision, not because it made sense, but because you'd already invested too much? Drop your answer in the comments. Your story might be the exact warning someone else needs to protect their future wealth. And if you're finding this breakdown valuable, hit the like button so more people can escape these financial traps. But here's the shocking part. The Concorde's playbook didn't retire with the jets. The same strategy is being used right now in projects worth trillions. Every time you hear national pride, infrastructure, or too big to fail, you're watching the same psychological trick in action. This was just one chapter in the larger blueprint of how power reshapes wealth. So remember that the costliest lies in history are also the cheapest lessons for your financial future. Luxury, freedom, and success are closer than you think. Don't just watch, take your next step. Choose our latest insights or a curated favorite, both waiting for you on your screen. This is The Wealth Project, deconstructing wealth, transforming your future. Subscribe, get the rulebook, and remember, you're now part of the exclusive club, playing to win.